He appeared at the edge of the village like a whisper from the past. No name, no story, no destiny. No one knew where it came from, but everyone felt the same thing. The air became heavier. Your face? Empty. His gaze? As if he'd already seen the end of the world and come back. On the first night, he walked towards the forest. Not the common one, but that one. The one that carries buried legends and forgotten screams. The old, cursed path that the elders swore never to tread. But he stepped on. It and the forest accepted him, or pretended to accept. What he didn't know is that every step forward was a return, and what followed him in the shadows, it was no ordinary wolf. It was the echo of something that should never awaken. This story is not about what was lost, but about what insists on returning. If you feel like there is something in you who never sleeps, so sign up now, because here, the steps' wrongs never cease to echo. There was no announcement. Not even the sound of footsteps. Just silence, dense, sharp, as if cutting the air in half. He appeared around the last bend in the dirt road, coming from nowhere or from somewhere that time has already erased. He was a man, but he carried on his shoulders something that made him more shadow than flesh. The clothes were worn, dirty from the road, but the look seemed to have crossed eras. No one in the village recognized him, but everyone felt. They felt how the wind changed, how the birds fell silent, how the dogs hid under the houses, and even without a name, he looked familiar. The village elder, who had long since stopped speaking, muttered just one word upon seeing him. Again. The traveler did not speak. He did not ask for shelter. He just walked through the narrow streets as if he already knew each one of them, as if coming back. The children watched him with wide eyes, feeling a chill they couldn't name. The adults looked away, and even the most skeptical felt the surrounding forest grow closer. That night, he sat alone on the edge of the village, staring at the threshold between the world of men and the darkness of the trees. A low mist began to form, the kind that doesn't come from the cold, but from oblivion. And then he listened. Low, far away, a howl, not a threat, but of longing. Something inside him trembled, something that had no words, but had weight. He closed his eyes, and for an instant, he saw the reflection of himself in other bodies, in other times, always going, always coming back. When he opened his eyes, the trail was in front of him, the one the villagers swore they would never step on, the one that disappeared into the darkness of the forest like an old scar, the trail of silence. And without thinking, he took the first step. He didn't know the name of that place, but the place knew his name, even though he had been forgotten a long, long time ago. The first step was almost imperceptible, but the forest noticed. It was like crossing an invisible border. The air has changed, denser, older. The trees there didn't look like trees. They were motionless bodies, watching, silent witnesses of a path that should no longer exist. There was no wind, not even insects, no life, only the trail, thin, dark, covered in leaves that never rotted. The traveler followed, aimless, or maybe guided by something that didn't come from outside. Each step seemed to sink deeper than advance, as if the earth itself were trying to pull him back or trap him there forever. And then he noticed. The very footsteps were disappearing. The sound of boots against the floor grew quieter. The footprints left behind disappeared, as if erased by invisible hands. There was no turning back. There, time did not move backward. The forest whispered, not with human voices, but with ancient memories, memories that weren't his. But what knew him? All around him, fleeting images appeared. A woman crying among trees, a group of men shouting forgotten names, and a wolf standing watching with eyes that burned like wet embers. He blinked, and the visions disappeared. But the feeling remained. The certainty that it had already happened. On a fallen tree trunk, he saw a symbol carved, intertwined circles, and a crack in the middle, as if someone had tried to seal something. The traveler rang, and he listened. A scream, distant, feminine, that didn't come from the ears, but from within. The ground shook beneath his feet, not physically, but like a living. Memory trying to escape from deep within the body. He fell to his knees, cold sweat, eyes wide, and the sound of the scream still echoing in the mind like an echo locked in a well. When he got up, the trail had changed. Now there was a second set of footprints. Light. Parallel to yours, non-human, wolf hits. He was not alone, but what accompanied him did not follow him. He guided him. On the cursed trail, the steps disappear, but the screams stay, waiting for ears old enough to recognize them, or hearts broken enough to feel them again. The footprints beside the trail were not mere marks. They were a warning, a reminder that I was no longer going to meet the unknown, but Yesof oneself. The wolf first appeared when the traveler reached the clearing where the trees dared not grow. There, the floor was dark as bone ash, and the air was still as in a room where someone had just died. On the other side, between the twisted trunks, he appeared. Black, silent, ancient, unblinking amber. Eyes. He didn't growl, he didn't advance. I just watched. The traveler felt the urge to flee, but his body did not respond. It was as if that gaze held something inside him, something that wanted to come out. He closed his eyes for a second, and he was swallowed by memories he didn't recognize as his own, but which bled in his mind like open scars, a stone altar covered in marks, voices screaming your name, hands lighting torches, a ritual, and a mistake. He opened his eyes, panting. The wolf was still there, but now, closer. The ground beneath his feet began to pulsate, like a distant drum, like a buried heart, and then in the reflection of a dark pool, he saw it. Not a man, not a wolf, but both, mixed, fused, inseparable. And in that instant he understood. The wolf didn't follow him. The wolf completed it. It was the forgotten part of his soul, separated when he opened that path for the first time. He was the creator of the trail, the sealed traitor, the cause of silence. The wolf, it was the price. Created to watch over the path he himself defiled, to haunt him for all eternity, to remind him even when he forgot. And now, they were face to face. No more veils, no more lies. The wolf took a step forward. The traveler did not run away. He knelt down, not in surrender, but in acceptance. For the first time, he reached out his hand, and the wolf touched her with his snout. And in that touch, the memories came back. Time trembled. The cycle has closed. Man and beast, error and penance, past and present. They merged into one. The forest fell silent. The trail faded behind him. And the traveler ceased to exist as he was, but it didn't disappear. Now he guarded the way, no longer as punishment, but as part of it. Because the greatest punishment, it is to remember forever what you were, without ever being able to be again. The forest opened before him like an old wound. In the center, a lake, silent, property, too dark to be natural. The traveler approached as if recognizing a place he had never been. I felt my heart tighten, but not from fear, of feeling. The leaves stopped falling, the air stopped blowing, and even the sound of his own footsteps seemed afraid to break the silence. There, on that shore, the world seemed suspended. He knelt down. He looked at the water and saw his reflection. but it wasn't yours. The face was familiar, but the eyes were those of the wolf. The expression? From someone who had destroyed everything is forgotten how. There was another presence there, inside him, something that wasn't new. It was too old to be named. The reflection smiled, but he didn't smile. And then it began. The images emerged from the water as if they were liquid memories, men gathered by the lake, a ritual to open the way, and he, in the center, offering his own blood, a broken oath, an open rift between worlds. The reflection didn't just show it, accused. He tried to back away, but the lake wouldn't let him. The water rose, even without movement. And then, the whisper. You are not who you think you are. It wasn't a metaphor. It wasn't poetry. It was the naked truth, ripped from the flesh. He was the mistake itself, not a victim of the curse, but its beginning. Everything that had happened up until then, the road, the village, the wolf, was a repetition, a cycle designed for him to forget. Until now. Now he saw. I saw the divided soul. The wolf was none other. It was him, the part that stood watch as the body was lost. That water. It was the mirror of his guilt. He shouted, but no sound came out. The forest didn't want noise. She wanted memory. And when the silence swallowed him again, the reflection stared at him for the last time. This time, they both knew who they were. The wolf was the watchman, the man, the forgotten one, the reflection, the warning. In the forest, names fade away. But the truth waits until the mirror is touched. The revelation did not free. She arrested. Now he knew. Had not been guided there. He was the guide. It was the beginning and the end of the trail, the seed of error, the meat of the path. The altar reappeared in front of him, not as ruin, but whole, vivo, palpitating like a heart that never stopped beating. The forest began to spin around him. Leaves rose, roots writhed. Time seemed to double, as if each era lived was superimposed on the next. And there he was, multiple versions of yourself, men with the same eyes, all walking the same path, at different times, always forgetting, always coming back. Beside him, the wolf appeared again, but now the two did not fear each other. They recognized each other. The beast advanced. He didn't back down. He closed his eyes, and he accepted. The merger was silent. There was no pain. There was truth. When he opened his eyes, he was alone. But something had changed. His skin trembled like wind trapped beneath his flesh. His vision was sharper. Your thoughts? Too old. He was no longer a man, not even a wolf. He was the guardian of the path. What observes, what repeats, what bleeds without dying. And then he understood. The cycle is not a curse. It's a reflex. As long as there are men who desire what does not belong to them, the path will open, and he will be there, again. At the edge of the forest, a new child watches him. Innocent eyes. But the fog already recognizes her. The cycle starts again. He forgot. He came back. And now, you know. If the echoes of this story whispered something inside you, then maybe the path is calling you too. But be careful. Not every trail leads to the destination. Some... Take it back. Sign up now. The wolf did not disappear. He's just waiting for the next one to forget.